What's up guys, MTG Matthew back with another video, and today we're going to be revisiting a deck idea that I had played before on this channel, which is Infinity Bant Control. And the idea of this deck was, or is, to build a Bant deck that is able to, in a way, generate infinite value through the card Turn the Earth. It's a 1-mana instant from, I think that's Crimson Vow, right? Which says, choose up to 3 target cards in graveyards. The owners of those cards shuffle them into the library so you gain 2 life. And you can flash it back for 1 in the green. So the idea of this deck is that we have a ton of card draw in here. And Turn the Earth allows us to not only never mill us out, right? Because as long as you shuffle your Turn the Earth back into your library, you will never be milled, or your library will never reach 0. And then as the game progresses, we have so much card draw and we have so many ways to control the board that eventually we just outvalue our opponent and then win with either a Hullbreaker Horror or a Leer or both, or also a Hall of Storm Giants. And I gotta say, it's been a blast playing this deck. I've been trying it out in Platinum and had a pretty decent win rate there, between 60 to 70%. I do want to mention that I feel like you really need to think about your turns with this deck, think long term, and just know how to get to your win condition, right? But if you really pay attention to just making sure that you build your advantage, and then in the end you smack your opponent with a Hall of Storm Giants or Hullbreaker Horror, this deck is very powerful, and as I said, you can just outvalue your opponent. So let's take a look at this card, because I've changed 1 or 2 things about this deck since the last version. The most notable additions are 1 copy of Leer and 1 copy of Hullbreaker Horror. 1 copy of each is more than enough, because we have so much card draw in this deck, and the game plan for this deck is anyway to stay in the game long, which means that if the games go on long and you have a lot of card draw, you can actually still rather consistently draw your 1 copies of Leer or Hullbreaker Horror. And even if you don't draw them, you have your Hall of Storm Giants to get you the win. So these are the 2 most notable additions. And then a big change from the last version of this deck is that Divide by 0 is now banned, so I had to find a replacement for that, and I put 3 copies of Pop Quiz in here, which has also worked really well. It's just another sort of card draw, it lets us learn, and it's also an instant, which means it can also trigger Hullbreaker Horror and protect the Hullbreaker Horror, so that's really cool. Let's take a quick look at the sideboard here, actually, the Learn sideboard. Because it's actually quite important. I'm playing this deck in best of 1. So we got 2 copies of Academic Probation. And Academic Probation is really here to shut down your opponent's Hullbreaker Horror, right? Because for 2 mana you can choose a non-land card name, and your opponents can't cast spells with the chosen name until to your next turn. So with 2 mana you can basically say your opponent can't cast Hullbreaker Horror for the next turn, which helps you in the mirror and helps you shut down this creature. Also, this works really well together with Leer, because with Leer you can recast these from the graveyard and shut out your opponent from casting certain spells several turns in a row. Then we got 2 copies on Environmental Sciences, which is rather important because we have 3 copies of Devastating Mastery in the deck, which is here to just wipe the whole board, right? It destroys all non-land permanents, which is real nice against stuff like mono green, or really any deck that puts a lot of different types of permanents on the board. But we do need 4 white mana for Devastating Mastery to cast it, so Sciences helps us get there. A single Reduce to Memory to just have some single target removal to exile anything, because one thing this deck does not have is single target removal. Just 1 single copy of Teachings of the Archaics, because there will only be very rare situations where you actually want to get a copy of Teachings, because between stuff like Memory Deluge and Eureka Moan, we got so much card draw that it's usually very unlikely that your opponent has more cards than you in hand. And then we have a single copy of Mascot Exhibition to, you know, act as a secondary win condition, especially nice together with Lear. So that's the learn sideboard. And finally, let's go through the cards one by one to tell you a little bit of the idea. So I already talked about Turn the Earth, which enables our deck to go infinite. Another card that's in this category, I would say, is Dryad's Revival, which is one of my absolute favorite cards from the last expansion. I just absolutely love this card. 3-mana sorcery, return target card from your graveyard to your hand. Any card. And you can flash it back for 5. So this just goes so well into this theme of we just want to outvalue our opponent and we can get, you know, a counter spell back like Saw It Coming or like Test of Talents and really lock down our opponent, overwhelm him with value. Or we get back our single copies of Lear or Hullbreaker Horror if they end up in the graveyard. So these are like our infinite tools, so to say. Then I also said we got counter spells in the form of 3 Sword Comings and a single Test of Talents. Sword Coming can obviously counter anything, and then Test of Talents can be, you know, can really shut down and be a blowout for a lot of decks. If you, for example, hit a Memory Deluge, this is absolutely fantastic. Then let's talk about surviving, because as long as our deck survives in the early game, this deck has a very high win rate, right? The only problem is if we were facing aggro decks. So against aggro decks, got 4 copies of Sunset Reverie, gives us live games, some board presence, and can even cantrip. Also really nice with Lear, obviously. Then we got 4 copies of Doomscar to deal with the board, and we got 3 copies of Devastating Mastery to, as I said before, just wipe the whole board. This can be just absolutely devastating against stuff like Mono Black, which wants to put a lot of Planeswalkers on the board, or as I said, against Mono Green. And then, because I made the experience that these are all like 11 spells against, well, aggro, or yeah, against creature-based decks, this was still not enough really in some cases. So I put in 2 copies of Consuming Tide, which is also one of my favorite new cards from the most recent expansions. 4 mana sorcery in blue, each player chooses a non-land permanent they control, return all non-land permanents not chosen this way to their owner's hands. Then you draw a card for each opponent who has more cards in their hand than you. So for 4 mana, this can bounce a lot, obviously kills tokens your opponent has, and this just works so well because most of the time we will only have 1 creature on the board, which is either Lear or Hullbreaker Horror. So we just keep our creature, bounce most of our opponent's stuff, and this even cantrips. So this is also just a really nice spell, and I absolutely love it. So this right here is meant to help us stay alive in the early game. Got the counter spells, and then we got the card draw. So I already talked about Pop Quiz, lets us also learn. Memory Deluge is a no-brainer, and then a few copies of Eureka Moment, which also lets us draw cards, but also lets us ramble a little bit, which is certainly helpful with this deck, because not only do we outvalue our opponent, but because of Eureka Moment, we usually also have more mana available than our opponent. And, you know, with this deck, games tend to go on very, very long, and it's not super unusual to reach 10 mana or more every single game. And then we got our 2 little creatures here, Lear and Hullbreaker Horror. And concerning the land base, the most notable lands are Seagate Restoration, a single copy. Also more card draw, we can flash it back with Lear or get it back with Dryad's Revival. That's really, really nice. And then we have a single copy of Ceylon Division, which is a 3-mana instant from Zendikar Rising, which can also be act as a land. Let's look at the top 6 cards of the library and pick an instant or sorcery from one and put it into your hand. Just some nice card selection. This can find us a board wipe or a counter spell, and it's also an instant, so it can also trigger Hullbreaker Horror and protect it. And the last thing I want to note about this deck is, let's go back to Turn the Earth. Turn the Earth is also an instant, so and a very cheap instant at that. So Turn the Earth is also really excellent to trigger your Hullbreaker Horror. And on top of that, it gains some life, which is actually relevant against aggressive matchups. And that's the deck. I really had a blast playing this deck. I'm currently climbing Platinum with this. And really excited to see the rest of Kamigawa Neon Dynasty spoiler season. Maybe there will be some cards that fit into this archetype. This archetype is probably my favorite deck from this expansion so far. And apart from that, new standard has been a blast for the last 2 days after the bannings of Epiphany, Haven, and Divide by Zero. So I'm pretty optimistic for standard right now. And with that being said, hope you guys enjoy the videos, and I see you guys soon. Alright, let's go here. Opponent is going first. With this deck you do want a mulligan for early survival, and this hand is not helping, so let's mulligan. This hand at least has got a Consuming Tide, so I guess we'll keep that, but it's not an ideal hand by any means. I might want to ditch the Saw It Coming. I think we're gonna ditch the Saw It Coming. We need the card draw to find answers. Yeah, and this is mono white aggro. So this is already a rough start. We need to find our answers. We need what's it called? Sunset Revelry. Yeah, Sunset Revelries or Doom Scars. That's a curve, man. Sunset Revelry. Okay, there's a Doom Scar, so we can foretell that, protect it from an Elite Spellbinder, and unless he has the right Dane. Doesn't. Okay, so the Doomscar here. We're at 6 life. Turn the Earth can give us more life. We got Consuming Tide. However, right now there's nothing to bounce on the board, so simply gonna Memory Deluge and we'll just hope to find more answers. We go down to 4 life here. Play the Memory Deluge. Definitely want the Doom Scar. And we can actually even get the Mastery because we already have 4 white mana, which is fantastic. So we got 4 mana, let's make this a blue mana. So we got 6 mana. I think I just... Well, we should at least probably foretell the Doomscar. Then we go down to 4 mana. I never saw it coming open. Turn the Earth. Let's foretell the Doomscar, it protects it from a Spellbinder. So we can counter something, or if for some reason he can buff this up to 4 mana, we can turn the Earth for 2 extra life. That's why Turn the Earth is actually so relevant even against aggro. It's just 2 more life. In the early game can be super relevant. Okay, so let's shuffle our Doomscar back. And you can... The thing about Turn the Earth is you can actually shuffle all the stuff back from your opponent's graveyard. So sometimes you want to see if your opponent has stuff in the graveyard that would be really bad draws. So you can shuffle it back into their library and thus make their draws worse. Worse. I think again we just pass. can Memory Deluge or Eureka Moment. But as you can see, the Turn to Earth gave me this extra 2 life that now makes it possible for me to draw some extra cards. So if we have to Doomscar here. Right? And now we have a counter spell available, or we can go Pop Quiz. Depending on what our opponent is playing, Pop Quiz might even be better. Brutal Cathar. Still got 2 mana open. So we could Pop Quiz and get a Mascot Exhibition. I think I'd rather just counter this. Okay, he had another creature. And ooh, Leer, let's go. So with Leer we can... Well, we can block this. And we can also turn the Earth. So that's a pretty nice draw. We also got Ria's Revival now, so we can... Okay, 2 extra life here. I don't want to shuffle the Leer back. Actually, I don't want to shuffle anything back. Just gain 2 life. Survive here. Okay. And it takes away my clue token. Okay, Revelry is sick. It's very nice. It's Revelry and... I think let's just Pop Quiz, get a Sciences. Right, gain some life. Man, this deck... Yeah. This deck has so much incidental life gain. Exile the Third Common, not the Deluge. Third Beach. Let's. I'm gonna get my Leer back. I got 6 mana left. Could play Leer here. Or we play Revelry and the Deluge. I like that better. Back to 11 life. Ah man, this deck is just a blast. Let me actually move the camera up here, so... Well, I just realized Leer is definitely worse because of the Sentinels here. But it's fine. Okay, takes away my card draw. Just block both of them, next turn blow up the board. Draw cards. Like a hall. Let's get a field. I don't know if this deck is gonna run the Dragonland. Oh, Doomscar is perfect. Fantastic. And now we play this. Yeah, GG. Ha! Oh man, we're down to 1 life. But this deck got so much life gain. Okay, second game here. Quite like the Sand actually. If we manage to get a third land. There we go. You know, we can cast the Reverie, we can cast the Doomscar, this looks really nice. Ranger Clan, okay, so let's foretell the Doomscar here. It doesn't match up where Devastating Mastery is gonna be nice if your opponent puts a ton of permanents on the board. But we just want to pop quiz here. So just make sure that with our land drops, Consuming Tide is also really nice against decks with a lot of permanents. Let's get a plane so that we can hopefully hit our 4 white mana for the mastery. Now here we could foretell the sword coming. And if we tie next turn, it's gonna be a little bit awkward. We have 1 mana left over then. Let's sunset Reverie, because we can potentially Reverie next turn again, plus a counter spell, or we slam the Leer, and then already have a sunset Reverie in the graveyard. Just keep blocking. Back to 20 life. Yeah. This is a matchup where we 100% need our Devastating Mastery. So Salon Division can help us a lot get there. Well, let's think. Actually, we need Consuming Tide, so we should play the Vision as blue mana, so we have double blue. Consuming Tide is gonna be amazing here. And then the question becomes, do we Doomscar? Actually, we can foretell the sword coming, and now to play Revelry, we're gonna draw a card. I think that's the best line of play here. Yeah. Because we want to get to our Devastating Mastery. That's what's going to win us the game here. Man, I gotta say, ever since the rotation, like, the games are so much more different. Also, I haven't seen Mono Green Aggro in a long while. Okay, Tide is gonna be amazing here. So we tied here, and then we can still foretell a sword coming. Also we draw a card here, because Tide is so good. Okay, I mean we got a Doomscar, but we want our mastery here. Lear with Consuming Tide is gonna be fantastic if we get there. We can probably next turn slam Lear if you find an untapped land and play a Sunset Reverie. Hopefully. Nice, right upon me. Okay, this is just too good. Slam the Lear. No, we can't counter spells anyway, so we Reverie. Get full value here. So I still got a Doomscar to hopefully get us there. Again, if Lear stays on the board, we have another Consuming Tide. Okay. And we can get Lear back with Gria's Revival. Or we get the Tide back, which is probably better here. Yeah, that's probably better. So let's get the Consuming Tide back. We just need to buy time till we find our Devastating Mastery. Man, the fact that Consuming Tide can't rip is so huge. And we're really not finding our card draw. But we can actually Revival and Tide again, which is so crazy. Okay, there's a Memory Deluge. So next turn is not gonna be a lot of damage. Plus we have counter spells. I think that's a really good turn to Revival and have a Deluge open. Let's get the Tide back. And then we've got a Memory Deluge, and now we're gonna start looking for the Devastating Mastery. Okay. Sure. Still no mastery. So next time we're gonna Consuming Tide again. Let's get another Memory Deluge. And the Doomscar. We're just buying time. Still no what's it called? Devastating Mastery. Okay, so opponent got 7 cards in hand, so we've played the Tide, we cantrip. Dude, Consuming Tide is so sick. Okay, another Deluge. I mean this is so nice. Now it's back in the graveyard, so If we can get it back somehow. By the way, I'm not countering these because if you find one devastating mastery, you can just destroy everything anyway. Okay, let's find our mastery, come on. Still no mastery. Let's get just another reverie, some life gain. Should we turn the earth? I don't think so. Again, our opponent has to discard your hand size. We got 11 mana. We can actually draw a card with Revelry. Let's do that. Where is our mastery? So if we Doomscar, we still have mana for another Memory Deluge. As you can see, as the game progresses, our deck is gonna become better and better because we play more and more lands, so then when we eventually shuffle good cards back into our deck, it's gonna be more likely that we just draw cards we actually can play instead of lands or cards that we don't need. Like in this matchup, we probably don't need a Test of Talents, for example. This deluge here. What? Still no devastating mastery, but with the restoration we might find what we need. And there's the mastery. Can't play it this turn. This is not really gonna be a lot of damage. I think we can survive here, and I'd rather play Eureka Moment. Oh my god, this deck, look at our hand. Next turn we can Mastery and then even play Hullbreaker Horror afterwards. Yeah. More value for us. We haven't even used counter spells so far. Yes, Eureka Moment, draw more cards, put more lands onto the battlefield. Turn, play a beach, and hello. Actually taking a bunch of damage because of the Meteor Massacre. So Meteor Massacre is probably something we should counter, because now we're taking 6 damage. But now everything's just gone. Okay, now we have enough mana open to flash in Hullbreaker Horror and then just start ending the game. Yeah, we should counter massacres. Let's use the more expensive one. See, now we can actually start shuffling stuff into our library that we want, right? So Oh wait, actually, let's not do that, because the turn the earth is really nice with the Heartbreaker Horror. Dude, this stack is just insane. We just keep countering. Actually, we don't need to. Rather just get the horror out. And the crazy thing is, because we kept Turn the Earth, get to keep it. Oh my god. Love this deck. Alright. Game number 3. This looks like a fantastic starting hand. With everything we want, we got a Sunset Reverie against Early Aggression, Pop Quiz to find more mana, draw cards, Eureka Moment to do even more of that. Foretell saw it coming. If we just take 1 damage here, we effectively gain 3 life, right? If we go Reverie. I want a Pop Quiz, so let's play the untapped land. Let's get Sciences. So we won't be able to get down. Oh, wait. No. Let's just get a forest mana here. Then we just Reverie. It's fine. We don't draw a card, but we still get a lot of value. Back to 23. So here one will probably Deluge, because if we don't have a access land in hand, and playing the Eureka Moment is kind of a bet, and because then otherwise you know, if you don't find land, it's just 4 mana, draw 2 cards. Okay, let's counter this and then Pop Quiz. Seems good. Storm the Festival, huh? So opponent has 4 cards. No, okay, let's just keep getting lands. Good enough. Also, we'll be able to go Seagate Restoration soon. Definitely want a Eureka Moment. Let's get the Sciences. Get a 4th. Actually, we already have 4 sources of white mana. But with this deck, you always want to make sure that you hit 4 white mana so you can cast the Devastating Mastery. Averbrook Caretaker. Yeah, we don't really care. We have so much life, we can block for days. Doesn't matter. parts, new ramp. There's the mastery. And we're just gonna take the chance here, draw a million cards. Awesome. Play the hole. Attacks. Oh man. I'm gonna blow up the stern with the Doom Scar. Four mana left for another Eureka moment, which is really nice. And now we just, well, we're looking for win condition, but we already have one in the form of Hall. Can also deal with these man lands. We feel the ruin. I probably shouldn't. Well, it's actually fine. Even if you take a bunch of damage here, we don't really care at all. Eureka moment. Put the Hall of Storm Giants into play, because it comes into play tapped anyway. Wow. Okay, so the question is, in a way, what we do about this layer, or if we just start attacking. I think we just gain some life and leave enough mana open for a haul. We leave. No, wait, I want a Field of Ruin and Memory Deluge. We can do both, even if he Sunset Reverie again here, so let's not do it, let's just foretell the Doom Scar. Island. I actually like a pop quiz to just deal single time remove this. Let's shuffle a pop quiz back, or even two. So that we can get shuffle this Blight back. No. Because in the sideboard we have reduce to memory, so we can reduce to memory this, get rid of this Death Toucher, because this can just block our Hall and kill it. And perfect. Perfect. Exactly as planned. Also, just incidentally, we turn to day by casting 2 spells here. Again, let's draw some cards. There's one thing this deck is really good at, it's drawing cards. I like Lear. And do we even want a counter spell? I kind of like it Revival. On farmland. Ah, I should have gotten the Field of Ruin back with Dria's Revival. Let's just start attacking. Probably wise to not play Lear here, so that if our opponent gets to 10 mana, we can just off Talons. Just Storm. So let's just gain some life again. Just never stops with this deck. And again, with 4 mana we can Memory Deluge again. It's just so much card draw, never ending value. And you just overwhelm your opponent. Sure. We actually have lethal here. We have lethal. Double haul. Unless he has a 1 mana way of gaining life. Which I don't know if there is. Huh? GG? Oh man. This deck. Fantastic.